Hi friends! Welcome to the All-Canadian Reptile Girl. I'm Annaliese, and I did once try to high-five a cactus. Never again. Today we're going to be getting into the nitty-gritty, like really gritty, world of reptile immune system. Because it's not just us humans who have to worry about germs. Reptiles are dealing with their own microscopic villains too. So let's jump in and learn how our scaly friends fight off infections and parasites, and how we can help them stay happy and healthy. Before we dive into the reptile world, let's do a crash course on immune systems just in general. We are constantly under attack from invisible enemies. You know how in adventure movies there's always a hero fighting off waves of bad guys or going toe-to-toe with a big bad boss that just sort of ragdolls everything else except the hero. Well, your immune system is kind of like that, but instead of Gandalf, it's your white blood cells. And instead of orcs, trolls, and a big ol' Balrog of Morgoth, it's germs, viruses, and parasites. Without a healthy, adaptable, robust immune system, the villains of the microscopic world would run roughshod over our delicate bodies. Oddly enough, we might not even notice that we're sick until it's too late because, fun fact, the lousy way you feel when you're sick is usually not actually due to the virus or the bacteria that's making you ill, but is in fact our own immune system and the changes it drives or byproducts it produces that ends up making us feel like absolute garbage. Weird, eh? And a little betraying. Like, it makes me feel a little betrayed.
Okay, would you rather die?
No.
Well, there you go. You're welcome from your immune system.
Just like us, reptiles too face a lot of microbial threats, especially in the wild where hygiene isn't exactly a top priority. They've got to deal with all sorts of germs, from the ones hanging out in their food to the bacteria in their environment. And just like us, reptiles have an immune system to deal with these threats. In a lot of ways, high level, theirs is similar to ours, but there are also some big differences. Why? Well, it's partly because reptiles have different survival strategies than us mammals. Mammals are typically warm-blooded and live fast-paced lives. So we need a quicker, more adaptive immune response to keep us alive in our germ-ridden world. Reptiles, being cold-blooded, have slower metabolisms and lead less active lives. Case in point. Which means that they are less likely to come in contact with large numbers of pathogens at any given time. So they rely more on an innate immune response. We'll get to those two types in a minute. Immune systems tend to work best when warm. Easy peasy for us endothermic or warm-blooded creatures. When it's really working hard, our bodies adjust to give the immune system the best chance of fighting off whatever bug is causing the problem. A fever. While the increased temperature does help the immune response, unchecked and prolonged, the fever can kind of cook your brain, so that's fun. Reptile immune response is tied very closely to their body temperature, just like us. But they are, as you probably know, if you don't click here, mostly cold-blooded or ectothermic. So when they are cold, which is most of the time, their immune system slows down. If they can't find a means to warm up,
that's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
So now that we've set the stage, let's get into the good stuff. Just like us, reptiles have two main types of immune defenses, innate and adaptive. The innate immune system is their first line of defense. They include physical barriers like skin. I'll touch more on this in a minute. Mucous membranes and the cornea of the eye, as well as cells like phagocytes. There's a bunch of different types that are kind of like the janitors of the immune system, recognizing foreign invaders and cleaning them up, gobbling up and breaking down any harmful invading germs. This system is kind of an all-purpose response, kicking into gear quickly when a pathogen shows up, responding in minutes to hours of detecting an invader. But sometimes the invaders are more than what a general reaction can tackle. It's something new or more resilient, or the innate system is compromised in some way. Whatever the reason, the innate immune system is not up to the job and the adaptive immune system kicks on. These are like the special forces of the immune system that need time to study the enemy before they strike. It's slower, but more targeted and very powerful. A big component of the adaptive immune system are lymphocytes that get to work producing antibodies. These antibodies target specific invaders and mark them for destruction. This system learns from each battle, creating memory cells that can recognize and attack the same or even a similar invader if it comes back. So, if a reptile gets a bacterial or viral infection, its immune system will remember how to fight it off if that wee little monster tries to crash the party again. Here's where things get tricky for our cold-blooded buddies though. Because reptiles rely on external heat sources to regulate their body temperature, most lack the ability to ramp up their internal heat like we do with a fever. If they get too cold, the immune response can slow down or even stop entirely. If a reptile gets sick, it will instinctively bask more to raise its body temperature even higher than it normally would be at to give its immune system a little boost. This process is called behavioral fever. It's like the reptile version of taking a hot bath and sipping some tea with a little extra something something when you're under the weather. Except, as far as I know, reptiles don't drink tea or booze. Please don't feed your animals tea or booze. Instead of a bath, they just hang out under the sun. Real or artificial, but basking is not just about heat. Vitamin D is an essential nutrient for calcium absorption and bone health. It's also really important for their immune system. Some species can produce vitamin D themselves through their diet and body processes, but many species rely partly or entirely, depending on the species, on UVB radiation from the sun or through UVB lighting that we provide to produce vitamin D. This is why it is an absolute requirement to provide vitamin D lighting for many species like tortoises or bearded dragons, and why it is recommended best practice for any reptile to give it to them, even if they don't need it. It's still better to provide UVB, not just for regular day-to-day living the best life, but because vitamin D plays a key role in helping the immune system fight off infections and is critical in keeping their immune systems in tip-top shape. When your reptile basks, they're not just sunbathing for fun, relaxation, or heat. They are literally fueling their body's defenses in case they need them. So we've touched on how reptile immune systems defend against viruses and bacteria, but that's not the only tiny terror our poor little reptiles' immune systems need to contend with. Let's shift gears and talk about parasites. Disgusting, I'm well aware. I could probably do a whole video just on parasites, but they're disgusting, and I don't want to do that. I'm sorry, but no. So I'll just do a quick bit here about them, then try to forget that they exist entirely. Parasitism is a type of symbiosis, which is any close and long-term biological interaction between two organisms of different species, which are called symbiotes. Symbiosis can be mutualist, where both organisms benefit from the interaction. Like, for my dad here, the Trill from Star Trek. You know, the brunette on Deep Space Nine with the spots that my dad has a massive crush on, and the wise old slug thing that lives in her belly. Like that.
Your markings, how far down do they go?
All the way.
And if you're not nerdy enough to get that reference, bees and flowers. Bees and the flowers they pollinate is a good and normal and a real example. Bees get food from the flowers, and in return, the bees take pollen from the other flowers, allowing them to, the flowers that is, to reproduce. Another type of symbiosis is commensalism, where one organism benefits and the other is pretty much unaffected, good or bad. Think remoras, those weird fish with like the grippy suction cup on the top of their head that latch on to sharks or sea turtles or other pelagic creatures, and they kind of get protection and they get to travel long distances while expending no energy, occasionally nibbling up scraps left behind from their host's feeding. Pretty good deal for the remora, and the host is not really affected either way by their presence. The last is parasitism, where one organism benefits and then the other is harmed or even killed. Ticks, leeches, tapeworms, facehuggers, all those creepy guys that make you go woo, are great examples of parasites. These little guys are like the annoying guests who crash your party, eat all of your food, break your stuff, rifle through your medicine cabinet, clog the toilet, maybe kill you, and never leave.
You get murdered first for once.
No, you get murdered first.
Reptiles in the wild are constantly exposed to parasites, both internal and external. Now, some reptiles can naturally tolerate low levels of parasites without getting sick. It's kind of like they've made some kind of weird peace treaty with certain parasites, allowing them to coexist without causing major harm, kind of turning parasitism into communalism, but with a bit of extra work. But in most cases, parasites suck. A lot of them, literally. It's not fun. And reptiles have evolved some interesting ways to deal with them. In the wild, some reptiles may seek out or eat food with anti-parasitic properties to help clear out unwanted guests, like certain types of plants, or this could even be prey, like some frogs or newts with poisonous properties that the reptile can endure, but the parasites cannot. For internal parasites like worms, the immune system kicks into gear much the same way as it does for other types of infection, producing antibodies to attack the parasites directly or to suppress their ability to multiply. Behavioral fever, as I mentioned earlier, helps boost the immune system to fight the parasitic infection, much like it does for bacterial and viral infections. Basically, reptiles love basking their way to better health. For external parasites like ticks or mites, we need to talk about one of the most important components of reptiles' immune system, ours too, by the way, that keeps the inside of a reptile inside and the outside, well, on the outside. Skin. I'm talking about skin, obviously. As it is with us, a reptile skin is usually their biggest organ. Yeah, does anyone else get weirded out that your skin is like your organ? It's an organ? Just out in the air? I feel like organs should be like private, right? No one should see those, but what you going to do? In any case, the skin is a complex organ with many critical functions beyond just being a canvas for cool tattoos. Not least of them is the very first line of defense for the immune system, and it's a powerful defense. Doubly so for a reptile with those tough scales, which act as a built-in armor, protecting against external threats much better than our squishy coverings. Plus, reptile skin contains antimicrobial peptides. We're ignoring it, we're moving on. Which are proteins that destroy bacteria before they even have the chance to cause trouble. Reptiles' tough, armored scales make it much harder for parasites to latch on. But sometimes, some parasites will find a chink in the armor, so to speak, wedging between scales or at body openings like nostrils, mouths, ears, eyes, cloaca. Thankfully, for most reptiles, they shed their skin regularly, which does help keep the external parasite load low. When reptiles shed their skin, a lot of the time, the parasites go with it. The remaining parasites need to contend with the rest of the immune system fighting them off. Pretty good. It's not perfect though, and sometimes the load is too high or the immune system is suppressed, and the reptile can be seriously harmed or even killed by parasites. But without these systems or mechanisms, they would stand no chance against a horde of ravenous bloodsuckers. Despite their incredible immune systems, reptiles can still get sick, just like humans. They can catch a respiratory infection, skin diseases, or other illnesses. But here's the good news. Reptiles are tough. In many cases, their immune system can fight off infections on its own, especially if they're in the right environment and getting the proper care. But, and this is important, they sometimes still need our help to stay healthy, especially in captivity. Keeping them warm, clean, and well-fed with proper nutrients goes a long way in making sure that they don't fall prey to infections or parasites. But if you notice your pet is acting off, like suddenly refusing food, wheezing, or being more sluggish than usual, it's maybe time to visit a reptile-savvy vet. The sooner you catch an issue, the better the chance their immune system has to fight it off, especially with a little help from modern medicine. Medicine you might need to administer post-vet visit yourself. This is one of the reasons why it is so critical that you properly socialize your reptile and make sure that they are comfortable or at least tolerant of being handled and that you know how to handle them as well. One day you may need to administer medicine orally or through injections or, up the butt. And if you don't have a trusting relationship with your scaly buddy, that can be a lot harder or even dangerous. Now, before we go, we can't talk about reptile immune systems without giving a shout out to the crocodilians. They have some additional layers to their immune system. These guys are basically the super soldiers of the reptile world, at least in terms of their immune system, well, and everything else about them. Yeah, they're just kind of incredible all around. They are so cool. Really, they are. Just look up everything cool about crocodiles and have a blast. Do it. Crocodiles and alligators often live in swamps, which are basically giant bacteria soups. Yum. They can also get into brutal fights and end up with serious injuries, like getting a limb bitten off, and then they're just walking it off like it's no big thing. They can do this and still avoid infections from even starting to take hold. How? Well, I mentioned earlier that reptile skin contains antimicrobial peptides. Well, crocs are nothing if not big fans of overkill and have these peptides not only in their skin, but also in their blood. That is absolutely loaded with these antimicrobial peptides, to the point that their blood is practically antiseptic, which helps to not just fight off infections, but not even get infections and or heal quickly, even in pretty gnarly conditions. Germs that would make other animals sick or even dead, crocs don't even notice. This means that crocodilians don't need as robust and adaptive immune system as other reptiles because they've got this built-in extra defense. Their blood can kill off bacteria, fungi, and even some viruses before their immune system even needs to get involved. Crocs are incredible. I want one so bad. That's a bad idea, right? Yes, very bad idea, Couch Annaliese. But you know what's not a bad idea? Showing support to those struggling creators that you enjoy watching on YouTube. Whether you hit that thumbs up button or subscribe or comment or are planning on joining my Patreon over on patreon.com/allcanadianreptilegirl like these fine folks here, it all helps out tremendously. However you can best support my work here, I appreciate you. Thank you. Well, there you have it. Just like their blood, reptile immune systems are seriously cool. From behavioral fever to tough scales and vitamin D boost to blood impervious to infections, these cold-blooded creatures have some pretty amazing ways of staying healthy and fighting off diseases. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below the favorite thing that you learned today. Thank you all so much for watching. Until next time, stay healthy, keep your scales shiny, and remember, if you're ever feeling under the weather, just find a good basking spot and power up like a reptile. Oh, and remember to nurture all nature. Bye!